Chapter 1. Born Moments. After the Big Bang, in the absolute darkness comes a sudden, intense burst of light. It's brighter than 1,000 suns, brighter than anything you could ever imagine. For a split second, everything is brilliance, pure energy flooding space. But just as quickly as it arrives, the flash fades, leaving behind something new. That raw, intense energy cools rapidly into a dense, sizzling soup, thick with particles colliding, forming, and being torn apart again. I remember my own beginnings as clearly as if they happened yesterday. I wasn't quite myself yet, not fully born. In those frantic earliest moments, I felt mysterious forces squeeze and hold three quarks closer and closer together, joined tightly. Bonded by the strongest known force in nature, the strong nuclear force, we finally clicked into place as a stable particle, a proton. That little particle was me. Now a proton. I existed, stable and distinct, ready to explore this young universe. But even in this new stability, peace was nowhere to be found. Everywhere protons and neutrons bounced and crashed into each other endlessly, like packed together billiard balls on an enormous table. Light swirled between us, photons dancing wildly, striking each particle relentlessly, never letting the pressure drop or allowing anyone to rest. For those first 3 intense minutes after the flash, the universe felt like one giant, pressurized furnace, filled with sizzling heat and rushing particles. Everything was glowing, hot, and chaotic. But gradually, second by second, moment by moment, instead of chaos alone, order started quietly emerging from the noise and heat. The universe cooled ever so slightly, and in that slight drop of temperature, a new element appeared: helium. Before this instant, there had been only isolated protons, occasionally combining briefly, only to be ripped apart again by the fierce energy around them. But now, helium emerged as something durable, 2 protons and 2 neutrons held tight, stable enough to outlast the fires around them. It marked a huge turning point. For the first time since creation, complexity was sticking around for good. Still, forming elements heavier than helium wasn't easy. It required very precise conditions and immensely improbable collisions. Yet, rare as they were, unusual interactions do happen if you give enough particles enough opportunities. One such rare moment of luck enabled my own journey forward in complexity. By pure chance, a special collision occurred. 3 helium nuclei met in an incredibly lucky hit. A triple interaction. In that fleeting cosmic instant, these helium nuclei fused into something new and heavier, a nucleus with 6 protons, the very first carbon seed. In that moment, born from improbable collisions among barely cooled helium, I came to be part of that carbon nucleus, destined to play a crucial role far into the universe's future. As seconds stretched to minutes, the intense glow softened. The universe itself stretched outward. Its unimaginable density decreased. Temperatures kept dropping and particles spread out, flowing more freely, like restless kids rushing away as school's final bell rings. It was becoming a vast, breathable medium where order, calm, and slow structure building became possible. Yet, amidst this expanding openness, a gentle, unstoppable force began softly whispering in every direction. Gravity, the hidden conductor gently drawing particles together, turning the scattered gas into enormous lumps and clouds spread across unimaginable distances. Slowly, gently, these lumpy structures arose from gravity's quiet nudges, building up pools of matter, vast collections of emerging clouds, seeding future galaxies, stars and planets. As part of that tiny, fragile carbon seed, Having witnessed unimaginable chaos and the birth of complexity, I floated silently among countless other particles. I watched the light fade. I felt the space around me quiet, settling into deep, slow calm. All around us, the gentle tug of gravity slowly shepherded matter into these immense and slowly gathering clouds. It was a borderland between old chaos and something mysterious just beginning its grand unfolding. I wondered, deeply curious, what came next? Light from those early moments was still drifting outward, bathing the universe with a faint newborn glow. Photons flying free for the first time, released in an enormous wave of subtle, cooling brightness. It was a light that would eventually become a dim background invisible to our eyes, a whisper hiding everywhere behind the stars. Humans, billions of years later, would name this faint ember the cosmic microwave background radiation. For them, it became a precious clue, evidence of these earliest moments I myself once lived through. From here, the universe leapt forward in an immense, unimaginably long jump, a single heartbeat spanning hundreds of millions of years. In this cosmic blink, gravity steadily continued its work, forging delicate threads of matter and vast clouds into thickening, dark regions. I watched nearby gas clouds thicken, dense pockets promising even greater complexity, waiting to ignite into light-filled structures unlike anything the young universe had yet seen. The first stars. As carbon nuclei drifted slowly across these thickening, shadowy clouds, I felt this pulling force quietly calling again. Gravity was tugging me gently, insistently, toward the heart of one particular cloud, ever denser at its core, gradually hotter. A star was forming, the first fires of fusion almost ready to burst into life. Looking back at those earliest times, being squeezed together from quarks within a hot chaotic soup, surviving improbable collisions, drifting across an expanding universe, feeling gravity's pull toward another unknown adventure, it was all barely preparation. I couldn't help but wonder, what incredible story awaited me next? I thought birth was wild, until I met a star. The dramatic early stages ended, and my quiet drift brought me closer, easing me gently yet irresistibly toward this gathering mass of hydrogen gas steadily compressing at its core, warming relentlessly. A stellar furnace beckoning with newfound promises and new challenges. To recap our journey so far, picture this: a blinding instant of explosive creation fading quickly into a dense, sizzling soup, particle collisions that made the first helium. Extraordinary triple collisions building carbon, the gradual cooling and stretching of the universe, photons released as that gentle background glow, those first vast clouds quietly guided by gravity, and the quiet drifting of carbon nuclei toward invisible centers of gravity's attraction, promising formation of something completely new. And now, I find myself floating directly toward a forming star, its core heating steadily, reactions poised to ignite nuclear fusion. The next chapter opens with that hot, dense stellar furnace and the fiery journey that will shape the future of carbon and, eventually, the entire universe. Chapter 2. Forged in the heart of a young star. Imagine a sound louder than any thunderstorm you've ever witnessed, more intense than thousands of aircraft engines firing at once. At the heart of this newly formed star, that's precisely the deafening roar of nuclear fusion. But if you could somehow withstand this ocean of blazing energy and incredible pressures, you'd find our tiny carbon atom quietly nestled at the very center of it all. Here, deep in the star's core, temperatures surge past 15 million degrees Celsius, hotter and more violent than anything humans can picture. In these extremes, normal atoms no longer exist as we know them. Electrons are stripped, nuclei collide, and matter itself behaves strangely under unimaginable pressure. Every instant, millions upon millions of hydrogen nuclei speed through the core, colliding at tremendous velocities. Most scatter, but occasionally, two of these hydrogen nuclei fuse together. When this fusion happens, they form helium, a process called nuclear fusion, the star's energy powerhouse, fueling its brightness for billions of years. But this isn't the end of fusion's path. In time, helium nuclei themselves join together in the dense furnace at the star's core. They fuse into carbon, our familiar atom with its 6 protons. In that critical moment, deep within the crushing heat, the 6th proton locks into place, and our humble atom finally gains its full identity. For carbon, this state feels strangely satisfying, almost balanced, complete somehow, for the very first time. The star, if we could peer inside, resembles layers of an onion. At its heart rests the newly formed carbon-rich core, surrounded by a glowing shell of helium fusion, itself nested beneath a fierce region of ongoing hydrogen fusion. Each layer generates vast pressures, forcing molecules into the core, while tremendous energy radiates outward. Yet something remarkable occurs here. Gravity relentlessly pushes inward, tirelessly compressing the star, attempting to crush it completely. But billions upon billions of photons, particles of pure light energy, drive outward with precisely the same intensity, resisting gravity's unyielding grip. This perpetual battle creates a perfect equilibrium, holding the star stable, neither collapsing nor inflating out of control. This delicate balance defines much of a star's incredibly patient lifetime. If carbon had eyes, it would notice powerful currents of heat rising through the surrounding layers. These are gigantic convection streams, superheated gas rising up from the inferno below, releasing their energy at the star's surface before cooling and sinking again. Magnetic lines become stretched, twisted, and tangled in these rolling currents, causing star-sized magnetic storms vastly larger and more severe than any sunstorm humans have glimpsed. Long before today's telescopes, long before we understood what stars truly were, ancient astronomers stared at the tiny, shimmering specks of light and wondered. They imagined the faint twinkles as signals, perhaps tiny gods lighting countless celestial candles. Yet, in reality, those shimmering points of light were massive nuclear furnaces just like this one, much like the young star that shelters our carbon atom. The truth was even more amazing. Stars powered entirely by fusion, reshaping basic atoms into heavier ones, slowly building everything that would someday become planets, mountains, the ocean, and even human beings. Billions of calm, repetitive, apparently timeless years drifted by. Our young star grew slowly older. Gradually, its supply of hydrogen fuel thinned, burned up by relentless fusion. Suddenly, the balance began to shift. The core, starved now for fuel, began losing its eternal tug-of-war with gravity. Slowly but surely, the core contracted, pressing inward, a silent yet unstoppable collapse. At the same time, freed energy pushed outward into the upper layers, inflating them like a gigantic balloon. The star inflated into a red giant, expanding hundreds of times its former radius, turning nearby planets red with its reflected glow. Worlds that had felt gentle warmth became scorched, scarlet deserts or airless rocks. From within the core, carbon felt the colossal shift, sensed the impending loss of stability. Everything was changing rapidly now, unpredictable and fierce. With sudden dread, carbon wondered what fate awaited it. Would it become trapped forever deep within the star's collapsing heart? Measured in cosmic timescales, It was a blink from certainty to chaos. But just as our atom faced quiet despair, the unexpected happened. Pressures within the contracting core surged again, and temperatures soared even higher, millions of degrees hotter than before. Suddenly, helium wasn't the finale. Fusion reignited, and heavier elements quickly formed: oxygen, neon, magnesium, an escalating cascade of violent creative fusion, sudden instability, and ferocious heat marking the beginning of the end. In mere cosmic moments, the star became chaotic, unpredictable, out of control. Waves of nuclear fusion raced outward through its core and shells, unleashing violent tremors, shock waves that tore through layers above. These disturbances built upon each other, each collision and flash growing fiercer, until the star trembled at its very foundations, for carbon, gathered tightly at the core. The inevitable became clear. This star would no longer hold together. A supernova, a colossal stellar explosion, was building relentlessly, an eruption so bright it could briefly outshine all the stars in the galaxy combined. Carbon knew what came next, and there was a strange clarity to it, one last moment of comprehension before chaos unraveled everything. It braced itself at the core, its bonds shaking, electrons ripped away once more. It felt its nucleus trembling against unimaginable forces. The sudden terror and exhilaration of what lay ahead as the raw power of millions of years of nuclear fusion gathered to unleash itself, readying an explosion millions of times brighter, hotter, and more brilliant than any event previously known. I'm about to be flung farther, the carbon realized, farther than any dream. And in that instant, the quiet certainty of the moment blurred, replaced by a breathtaking rush, a violent, magnificent burst of supernova light scattering elements into empty space, forever altering the universe around it. Chapter 3. Hurled across space by a brilliant supernova, imagine a sound louder than anything our universe has known since the moment of creation. A colossal boom powerful enough to rip stars apart and reshape whole corners of the galaxy. This is the ferocity of a supernova explosion. At the end of a massive star's life, gravity finally wins the battle against nuclear fusion. The star's core collapses inward, shrinking within seconds and rebounding violently, sending enormous shockwaves radiating outwards. The outer layers, heated and energized by this unbelievable rebound, are thrown outward at speeds approaching a fraction of the speed of light. It's an event both cataclysmic and brilliant, visible from hundreds of millions of miles away. In those moments, the star doesn't merely vanish, it scatters itself throughout space, creating debris clouds rich in elements, born deep within its ancient core. Most carbon atoms existing today were forged deep within these stars, alongside iron, oxygen, gold, and countless other elements that later became integral to planets, living organisms, and all the objects that surround us today. That carbon is now freed from within the star and trapped within glowing shrapnel, launched violently into interstellar darkness. But at first, there's no darkness. This freshly dispersed debris cloud glows fiercely, saturated with intense radiation streams and unimaginably high temperatures. The radiation charges the atoms, energizing their electrons and granting them unique signatures, spectacular neon colors that scientists spot clearly through telescopes here on Earth. Think of NASA's iconic images of the Crab Nebula, thin filaments of blue and green twisting outward, a beautiful remnant of one such ancient stellar death. Every time you gaze upon an image like that, you're witnessing this incredible aftermath, the precise moment new building materials for worlds and life are set free. As the debris expands, pressure and temperature drop rapidly. Within a year, the initial tightly packed fireball cloud expands to encompass an area larger than our entire solar system. Cooling and dimming further, it continues to grow relatively quickly. These once tightly bound elements now gradually separate, spreading through light years of empty interstellar space. Here's where the carbon atom's journey truly begins. As the heat fades, elements disperse, drifting across enormous distances as gently as dust carried on a breeze. But in the vacuum of space, there is no breeze. Instead, forces more subtle slowly nudge and scatter these particles throughout our galaxy, setting them adrift. The carbon spends trials of time drifting through the deep quiet of interstellar space. Over millions of years, its solitude is punctuated by occasional collisions with energetic cosmic rays, high-energy particles released by distant explosions or supermassive black holes elsewhere. These encounters occasionally rip away one of its electrons, charging the atom momentarily. In such moments, these isolated atoms briefly glow, creating microscopic sparks invisible to the naked eye. Each spark signals the atom's tiny interaction with the rest of the galaxy, a subtle sign that it is hardly alone. Throughout its slow migration, our carbon atom's cloud doesn't travel aimlessly. It's gently guided by the subtle gravitational pull of the Milky Way's intricately spiraled arms. Galaxy arms don't simply rotate like wheel spokes. They move more subtly, almost like a traffic jam that travels along the highway. Gas, dust, and debris get caught briefly within these denser regions, coming closer together, interacting chemically, and gradually moving inward or outward from the galactic center according to gravitational influences. In this way, these spiral arms shepherd clouds of debris into regions rich in new star formation, giving our little cloud a collective direction toward what will ultimately become its new home. As this carbon cloud journeys toward those stellar nurseries, nearby stars continue to live, age, and eventually, some inevitably, explode in supernovae of their own. Each additional explosion enriches the surrounding interstellar medium with fresh doses of heavier elements like uranium, silver, aluminum, and platinum, sprinkling these into the cloud drifting silently along, bit by bit. The building blocks of planetary systems accumulate, ensuring ample solid matter to someday form rocky worlds, asteroids, comets, and life itself. As the cloud slowly thickens again, tiny specks of dust formed from silicates, minerals made of silicon and oxygen, begin to drift closer together. In the quiet coldness of space, these microscopic grains clump gently like snowflakes forming softly inside a drifting cloud. These dust grains will become seeds around which larger objects form, the first tiny clumping that might someday build worlds. And here, our drifting carbon atom experiences a new event, something completely novel. It sticks onto one of these microscopic grains of silicate dust after millions of years in space as a solitary atom floating freely, bound only by tenuous forces of electric or magnetic fields. Now our carbon is actually solid, part of a real speck of dust. This simple combination signifies something profound. This carbon atom is finally participating in the construction of physical structures. We know this story intimately because here on Earth, we've discovered grains within meteorites that carry these ancient chemical signatures. Scientists study the chemical composition of tiny specks hidden deep within these rocks. Meteorites showcased within museum glass cases that preserve the genuine fingerprint of those supernova explosions billions of years ago. When you look at a meteorite behind a display case, you're not merely seeing rock, you're literally seeing ancient grains of carbon, silicon, oxygen, and iron, unchanged since their astounding birth, since their time adrift in space, waiting for planets and life. Gradually, the cloud enveloping our carbon atom bunches into denser knots, slowly sliding into a thicker pocket of dust and gas, the beginnings of a stellar nursery. The pull of gravity steadily guides these knots together, forming more massive objects through collisions, merging clouds into larger clouds, building density. Eventually, over millions of years, one dense region begins to stand out, attracting matter more rapidly. Slowly turning, it draws in material from its surroundings, growing hotter and denser until the moment when nuclear fusion ignites deep inside its heart. At that instant, a young star, a protostar, is born. The spiral arms set the stage. The supernova explosions enriched the ingredients, and gravity now directs the orchestra. Where once carbon drifted alone, random and scattered, now it journeys along with the cloud, spiraling gently toward the center. It will soon join the newborn star's spinning disk of material, the stellar nursery out of which planets will form. But that story still lies ahead. The carbon has traveled from a fiery explosion through immense space, drifting and waiting patiently. And now, it has reached the quiet but active incubator of a stellar nursery, a swirling disk of gas and dust. There, planets will soon start forming, orbiting this young star, this future sun, building the stage upon which the Earth's own history will begin. Next stop, a swirling disk where planets are born. Chapter 4. Riding asteroid dust to a newborn Earth. Imagine drifting just above the glowing swirl of gas and dust orbiting an infant sun. A star barely taking shape, yet powerful enough to set this disk aglow. Streams of gas spiral inward. Like water circling toward a drain, tiny grains of dust float everywhere, bobbing and bumping gently, illuminated from within by a soft orange glow. Out here, suspended in orbit, rests a single microscopic particle containing a tiny speck of carbon, one atom among countless billions, housed snugly inside its gritty silicate home. Drifting slowly, it brushes against neighboring grains. Each soft collision is like dust motes meeting in a sunbeam, gentle yet crucial, because in this crowded yet delicate environment, those chance touches matter. At this tiny scale, static electricity rules. Dust particles become charged, sticking to one another like socks fresh out of the dryer. Bit by bit, clusters grow larger, a grain to a pebble to a rock. Little collections of rock begin to form fluffy aggregates, resembling clumps of loosely fused snowballs tumbling gently through space. Gradually, over just tens of thousands of years, remarkably short compared to cosmic time, these pebble collections grow to houses-sized chunks, then to massive bodies larger than skyscrapers, still moving within the disk. They collide more dramatically. These impacts no longer gentle, delicate gatherings. They smash and pulverize one another, forging ever larger objects from the shattered remains. Step by steady step, this agitated dance builds rubble pile rocks into full-sized planetesimals, asteroid-like mini-worlds, stretching tens, sometimes hundreds of kilometers across. But gravity, that persistent and universal hand, changes everything. As these planetesimals congregate, their cumulative mass causes traffic jams and gravitational tugs. Their orbits become crowded highways. Frequent collisions mean friction. Friction means internal heat. And this warming, deep inside the largest planetesimal, softens rock. Solid minerals become mushy interiors, sometimes even melting outright. Inside our carbon atom's rocky home, heat builds steadily. Originally locked in primitive silicate grains, the rising temperatures rearrange minerals. Heating breaks bonds and allows atoms to wander through softened minerals. Our carbon finds itself congealing with neighbors, linking together, crystallizing slowly into microscopic layers of graphite. Thin sheets of organized carbon atoms stacked atop one another, like a deck of playing cards freshly unpacked. Yet, the solar system's early stages are violent times, just when our carbon atom's graphiteric rock seems comfortably settled in the depths of a growing planetesimal. Disaster strikes. Another asteroid-like body impacts at astounding speeds. The parent object fractures catastrophically. Rocks shatter, vaporizing portions into clouds of debris flung outward into space. What was once one cohesive world, now scattered fragments tumbling outward, like sparks from a massive firework explosion, radiating in all directions. Over millennia, one chunk stabilizes, pulled by gravitational pushes and nudges. This fragment, now recognizable as its own newly born asteroid, settles into a stable orbit. Here it stays for countless millions of years, quietly orbiting in the inner solar system, while the infant planets around it mature, while Earth transforms from molten and sterile into a watery world. The asteroid, like a fossil preserved through time, locks the carbon tightly inside. Graphite layers lie dormant, suspended within minerals, unaffected by sunlight or vacuum. The asteroid's orbit at first seems safe, steady. But deep space, it turns out, is anything but calmly predictable. A single gentle gravitational tug from Jupiter or Mars, subtle yet accumulating over eons, slightly nudges the asteroid. Its stable orbit too delicate to bear even the tiniest irregularity. This simple push nudges its path just enough to start an unintended journey inward, toward the warming glow of the young sun, and toward a vibrant new blue and white planet teeming with ocean water and clouds swirling in the atmospheric currents. Earth, pulled inexorably inward, gaining speed. It enters Earth's atmosphere like a burning ember traveling tens of thousands of kilometers per hour. Friction from compressing air makes its surface glow red hot, instantly evaporating rock into dazzling streams of vapor and smoke. From below, it appears as a fiery meteor streaking across the sky, lighting the darkness like daylight before exploding. Ablation, the vaporization of rock at the asteroid's surface, breaks minerals down, releasing carbon monoxide gas into Earth's atmosphere, along with fragments of fine dust, like cosmic ashes drifting downward from a glowing ember. Though its outer layers perish in fire, small fragments of solid rock survive. Fiery entry reduces their speed, leaving slowed remnants to rain down more gently upon oceans below. These splashes sprinkle Earth's early seas with much-needed materials, acting as seed packages of primal organic matter, chemical building blocks essential to the formation of more complex molecules. Settling beneath shallow tidal waters, microscopic pieces of asteroid-borne carbon float freely, mixing with Earth's primitive oceans, bathed in gentle rays of sunlight, warmed by young volcanic vents, and stirred regularly by tides. Earth's early tidal pools become chemistry labs without walls, natural vessels within which atoms and molecules dance continually into new arrangements. Carbon atoms, freed from minerals, react with water-rich environments, sunlight energy driving chemical connections. Gradually, amino acids, sugars, and essential molecules appear spontaneously, a spontaneous experiment in molecular assembly unfolding day by day, year by year, beneath an early sun, long before complex animals. Tiny prokaryotic cells, early bacterial organisms, harness these molecules, using them to build cell walls and metabolic pathways. Cells bind carbon into simple structures like methane, cycling carbon into forms that life can harvest and reuse. Early microbes begin generating tiny shifts in Earth's atmospheric chemistry, releasing methane as a byproduct, altering climates subtly at first, yet profoundly in the long run. Thus, life itself becomes an architect of Earth's environment, life evolving through chemical changes as its presence further transforms the planet that sustains it. Time marches steadily onward. Processes deep within Earth's crust shuffle elements more dramatically. Earth's rocky mantle, heated from radioactive decay deep within, churns sluggishly, moving tectonic plates slowly across the globe's surface. Ocean crust bearing sediments rich in organic carbon, once products of our little asteroid, dives beneath heavier continental rocks. Buried deeply underground, this carbon-bearing sediment heats dramatically. Some carbon reintegrates into the mantle, stored temporarily away, while volcanic eruptions and ocean ridges later bring other carbon atoms back to the surface again, cycling endlessly between Earth's interior, oceans, atmosphere, and life at the surface. Finally, after countless cycles spanning unimaginable expanses of time, hundreds of millions, even billions of years, the very same carbon atom carried from space aboard asteroid dust finds itself unwittingly captured within a primitive cell's biochemical structure. Perhaps it now forms a simple sugar molecule, the basic carbohydrate fueling primitive organisms. The same carbon that once rode comfortably inside asteroid graphite sheets now fuels emerging cells. It now sits poised at the base of a grand tree of life that, after billions of years more, would come to nourish trees, feed insects, energize dinosaurs, and much, much later, enter into human bodies themselves, becoming part of human tissue and eventually inspiring the creatures that now attempt to uncover and reconstruct its long and astonishing journey. From a microscopic speck orbiting a baby star, to an asteroid tumbling toward a watery planet, to living cells thriving in tidal pools, to buried molecules dragged deep into Earth's mantle, returned once more through volcanoes, this long cosmic dance connects us deeply and unmistakably to the stars we see at night. Carbon, the versatile atom at the heart of life itself, has traveled an incredible path through space, time, asteroid collisions, oceans, microbes, volcanoes, and finally into the chemistry that gave rise to humanity itself. In this way, every carbon atom is a storyteller. Every breath we take, every meal we eat, every cell we grow carries within it a trace of this epic journey, one that began nearly 5 billion years ago, riding quietly aboard asteroid dust toward the infant Earth. Chapter 5. Joining the dance inside your living cell. The breath you took just now, that simple, silent action, contained a hidden story thousands of years old. Although you drew air into your lungs for oxygen, each inhale also sweeps in molecules of carbon dioxide. Carbon, a restless atom traveling Earth in countless forms, has just entered your body again, continuing a dance older than life itself. Within moments, that single carbon atom slips from your lungs into your bloodstream. It rides quietly through the busy conduits, vessels branching into finer and finer capillaries, merging and branching again like bustling metro lines beneath a thriving city. Imagine that atom as a single passenger on a packed subway, swept onward by the rushing crowd, never quite still, always moving toward some destination. But our carbon traveler was not always free-floating in your bloodstream. A few days earlier, this same atom rested quietly in a bright green spinach leaf, warmed by sunlight, captured from the air itself, The leaf's chloroplasts, the tiny factories of photosynthesis, stole the carbon atom away from the atmosphere. They locked it safely into glucose, a sweet, compact molecule formed from carbon dioxide, water, and sunlight, storing chemical energy for the plant. A breath taken by the green leaf became food, energy, stored sunlight for life. When you took a forkful of salad at lunch yesterday, your teeth crushed spinach leaves, releasing their stored sugars. These carbon-rich molecules slid down your throat to your digestive tract, where tiny proteins called enzymes waited patiently, like microscopic scissors and glue. These enzymes carefully snipped glucose molecules apart, freeing the captured sunlight and setting loose electrons filled with chemical energy. In doing so, that humble-leafed carbon atom moved from food on your plate to energy-rich molecules flowing into your cells. Inside each of your cells, carbon swiftly finds itself drawn into a crucial process, the Krebs cycle. Sometimes called the citric acid cycle, this elegant, ongoing cycle, named after biochemist Hans Krebs, carefully breaks down the sugar fragments into carbon dioxide, systematically pulling out available energy, molecule by molecule. But our carbon atom didn't immediately drift out as carbon dioxide again. Instead, it became caught in another vital reaction inside the cell. Enzymes guided it into a molecule called an amino acid, the tiny building blocks of proteins. Joined tightly together with other amino acids, it became part of a strand of muscle protein. Another heartbeat, stronger now, ripples through your chest. Every heartbeat is your muscle fibers tightening and untightening rhythmically, drums pounding out the steady time that frames your life. Our carbon atom, held securely in your muscle fiber, flexes with each contraction, contributing in its small, quiet way to your body's daily motion. Carbon shifting quickly within your cells may seem remarkable, but consider this: 98% of every atom in your body exchanges with the environment each year, every year. Nearly every atom you once called part of yourself leaves, exchanged in meals shared, breaths exhaled, cells replaced. Yet, still, through all these atomic exchanges, you remain distinctly you, your memories, your identity, your feelings holding fast despite the constant chemical flux. We constantly swap atoms in a dance of biological renewal, yet we hold on to identity, to personality, to an enduring sense of being. Our carbon atom continues its dance. Now it breaks away from muscle, travels again through blood vessels, and finds itself gently arranged into a vibrant, tiny molecule known as a neurotransmitter. Neurotransmitters are chemical messengers carrying signals between nerve cells, slipping quietly across minuscule gaps between cells called synapses. As laughter erupts within you, a brilliant burst of neuronal activity. Our carbon atom threads through that signal, aligning into molecules of serotonin or dopamine, neurotransmitters carrying messages of delight and happiness. Your laughter, your thoughts, your emotions, all rely in their smallest details upon these exchanges of carbon-bearing molecules. Yet this isn't the atom's final destination. After a brief detour, our carbon atom becomes lodged in your bones, this sturdy vault of calcium carbonate, a structural reservoir of elements that support, protect, and function as a mineral storage bank. Your bones are continuously remodeled, carbon in, carbon out, slowly exchanging atoms, maintaining strength and flexibility simultaneously. A quiet, steady incoming and outgoing tide, carbon stored safe, ready when needed elsewhere in your body. Night falls, your body still at work, renewing and repairing. As you sleep, cells continuously replace worn-out parts, duplicating their DNA, the blueprint molecule of life. Workers that never rest, ribosomes, nucleases, and polymerases, the molecular biological night shift, carefully select atoms, placing carbon again into a new nucleotide, a central letter in DNA's vast genetic language. In this moment, carbon helps maintain and rebuild the genetic instructions that make you uniquely who you are. DNA replication is meticulous, precise, happening millions of times each second within your body. Carbon atoms dancing into place, ensuring the continuity of life itself. Think about this carefully. Every memory you've formed, every song you've sung, and every sprint you've raced involved billions of carbon atoms and their spinning electrons, arranged carefully into intricate, precise molecular patterns. The electrons dancing about carbon atoms enable and empower life itself, providing the chemical flexibility and strength for these vital events and experiences. Carbon isn't just a passive participant, it's an indispensable actor in every drama played within your body's cells. Pausing here, the story leads us toward an intriguing ethical crossroads. Understanding this intimate dance, how atoms circulate freely through air, soil, plants, animals, and humans, offers us profound insight. If within hours, days, or years, we share millions of atoms with every living creature and plant around us, then the boundaries separating us blur. Our interconnectedness becomes starkly clear. We exist continuously constructed and reconstructed from the environment. Knowing this pushes us to consider how we treat our surroundings, each forest lost, each reef bleached, each species endangered affects this natural choreography we ourselves participate in wholly. Understanding our place in this biological exchange encourages responsibility and changes our perspective from separate individuals to communal participants, from isolated observers to integrated actors. Looking further ahead, one day you and I will each breathe our last breath, yet carbon atoms dance undisturbed. They'll flow once more through soil and air, nourish new seeds, and rise again within plants. Over many cycles, carbon atoms even drift upward into Earth's atmosphere and beyond, mingling again in nebulas, stars, and worlds beyond our imagination. Energy and matter remain constant and endless, passing from flame to flower, from stone to star. Carbon, flexible and eternal, connects all these stages. So remember, the carbon within your bones, your muscles, your brain, moves continuously from air to leaf to lunch to cell, ever shifting and shaping your life experience. The elemental fuel of your body has danced these steps 1 billion times before, and will continue endlessly after your specific part is complete. My story is also yours. We are stitched from the same sparks.